like not being like cinematic. Like it is still cinema. There's just, I think you can just say like there's different types of cinema. You know what I mean? Like there are different forms, and so there's a more like traditional form of cinema, like The Irishman and Godfather and all those things, and then there's like Marvel, but there's always like the middle. You know what I mean? Like there are things. Yeah, exactly. Like and like to me the middle would be like Black Panther, where it's like it's a Marvel movie, it's interesting, there's a lot of action, but it calls the audience to like think about more controversial topics, and like there's character development. Michael B. Jordan was like like a like a curveball, you know what I mean? Like he comes in and he's like forcing, you know what I mean, the people of Wakanda to be like, well, like shoot, like we have all these resources, how are we not helping other Black people? And then the discussion of Pan-Africanism is like brought up, and so like those Black Panther is like a perfect example of how like it meets in the middle. Like it's a Marvel movie and it's franchised, but it's still cinema. And I think there's also like the other side of it where like Saving Private Ryan, like I think Scorsese would consider that a cinematic movie, but that's got like a lot of action. I mean, Steven Spielberg made that, and he also made like Ready Player One and stuff like that. So he, as a filmmaker, like he's like, bounces back and forth between the spectrum. But it's important to know that like just because there's not like a bunch of emphasis on dialogue.
Yeah, he made Color Purple also.
Yeah,
if you know
so
that
like
Spielberg.
movies like that, like Steven Spielberg, like he's a genius in that like he can stick to that traditional like emphasis on like dialogue and emotion and like aesthetic, but he can also like roll with the changing like audience and technology, and I don't know, but maintain that sense of like.
We'll have the table.
I'm jumping up and down.
Tragic.
Must be the blonde hair. All right.
So, the first thing I want to say is that how Isabella was talking about Star Wars and the dialogue and stuff, and it's like, you gotta remember that before Star Wars was like a big franchise, like with the newer movies, because like the newer movies are the ones that like you can mainly compare to Marvel.
Yeah.
You gotta remember like this, like the Star Wars story started with like an idea that George Lucas had way back in the day, and then also when you compare Star Wars to Marvel, the one that you can like draw the most similarities to, in my opinion, would probably be like Captain America.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, it's like the Empire is pretty much like Nazis. There's like a weapon that'll destroy a whole planet. That's like a nuke. Like the threat of nuclear war was going around. Like it's like the reason that Marvel is still like has like some artistic elements in it is because of the comics. Because the comics like were made around a time where they were being influenced by the stuff that was going around them. And so and then like another part of Star Wars being like a big like a game changer at the time was because of like the effects they were using, and on top of that like Isabella said, the first one, like the dialogue, like one of like the most memorable moments in Star Wars is after Luke's like aunt and uncle get killed, and he's just staring at like the sunset in Tatooine. You just know that like some stuff is about to go down. Like that scene of just like, I don't know how to describe it, just emotion in him that you can see is like incredible. Yeah, there's some other stuff that's like this.
Okay, so to like kind of shift back to like the Black Panther kind of aspect of it, Black Panther has like a really good dialogue between like politics and like has like a good balance of like politics and action. And in the audio, the podcast, the NPR podcast, one of the ladies talks about how it's like the little subtle things that you see in Black Panther, like, I mean not subtle, but like it's there, but like you gotta read into it. Like the fact that they have like all female warriors, that just shows like it's like black girl magic, like
you have to pay attention.
exactly. You gotta look into it. Like for a child, like they might be just like, oh, that's so cool. Like they won't know like the meaning of it. But for an adult, you like look into it and you read and you see like they have like this all black female warrior squad or whatever, and they like it just shows like the female power in like women. And also you realize that there's not really much of a romance story. Like you know that like like T'Challa and what was her name? I forgot her name. T'Challa in that.
Sister? The one
No,
no,
not
not the
sister.
one, but the one who's like
No.
the one that
T'Challa and Lupita Nyong'o. They had like a little crush thing going on, but they don't focus on that because you know, like in the movie Black Widow, like a lot of her story was about romance, like, and it was about like her like and this boy or whatever. But in Black Panther, you don't see that. They don't focus on that because that's not all that women entail. Like they're not about romance. Like it's not about her. It's not all about romance. It's not all about like who she's like having a crush on, whatever. It's about female empowerment, and it's about like I don't know, feminism.
I don't think that's female empowerment. I think that's against black people.
Yeah. But like for that,
Yeah.
for that category.
yeah, we could be on the
No, don't give it to me.
No.
Don't give it to me.
Justin Bieber.
Okay, so about taking risks and all.
Hey yo, my boy Justin trying to talk, bro.
When Martin Scorsese brings up how movies like Marvel movies don't take risks or anything like that, I think he fails to realize like to look at movies like Logan or even like Marvel's competitor DC's movies like The Joker, it takes a lot of risks. And it's really like one of those movies that this year actually made a big impact in cinema and like movies in general, and kind of like sparked a lot of thought in people about like the working class and all this mental health and stuff. And I think that like he's like kind of biased towards movies at his time and like his genre of movies, because Joker has some really intense dialogues and like scenes where it's just like quiet, but like you're anticipating something to happen, and like that kind of build up it's like the same thing that you would see in other movies that he makes.
And what doesn't make sense to me is like his back to Irishman. Like I watched it and it was good, but it was like you talking about Marvel movies, but somebody was getting killed like every 10 minutes in The Irishman. Like that's like, I mean, it's not like it was some like big crazy scene every time somebody got like killed, but it was like somebody's getting killed every like 10 minutes. So, you know.
Kind of going back to when Justin was talking about the Joker. Personally, I didn't like that movie at all, but I do think that it was a big thing for like awareness of mental health and dealing with stuff like that. Like when he was on the train and he was laughing and the lady was just kind of like treating him so rude, and then he showed her that he had an issue and she was like, oh, all right, like let me not act crazy towards you. And I think that was like, you just kind of have to think about it. Like these are issues that people go through every day, and it's also like an emotional thing. And also like what Mom Kwana was saying about Black Panther, like although a lot of Marvel movies are spoon-fed to you, there's always a deeper meaning.
Yeah.
Like when in this article when it says that Killmonger was from Oakland, California, where the Black Panther Party was born, and he's out here trying to fight for all Black people, not just the ones in a specific area, like the Wakandans were.
It's crazy. And so I don't think Scorsese was necessarily talking about just action movies in general, because action movies are like how everyone was saying have been around since forever. I think it's a lot based on like how you use the action, because when you think about when people love to talk about like the most artistic movies they've seen and stuff, they love to mention Tarantino. Tarantino has some of the goriest. Okay, he has like the goriest movies that you'll ever see. It's like it is disgusting, but it's awesome. But like when you look at Pulp Fiction, for example, like some of the dialogue in that movie that goes along with the action is insane. Like when Samuel L. Jackson is reading like the Bible verse before he kills that one dude, like that is one of like the biggest moments in the movie. You're sitting there thinking like, oh my God, he's straight up reading out the Bible and he's about to kill this man. It's crazy.
Let me just one other Tarantino movie called Reservoir Dogs.
Oh.
His first one, and it's what they sometimes with Tarantino is what he doesn't show. Some guy was about to get his ear cut off, and then before it happened, it was worse. He took the camera off, so you actually pictured it, and that's why I remember being in the theaters, and that's when people started walking out of the theater. It was so bad because he didn't actually show it. It's like he made it so you pictured it in your mind, took the camera off of it, and then.
In the Joker they did that when he like killed the TV person, Like
Oh,
they showed
yeah,
it, so like
yeah.
you
And then they
see like the
moved it.
bullet fire, and then it's like a
And then the
split second
aftermath.
of black, and then you see like the like aftermath, like right after it happened, like his head falling back and everything, and like the blood splattering, and it was like you don't actually see the bullet go through this man's head, or like basically his head explode, but like you can picture it, and so like because like I guess legally or whatever they're not allowed to show that, and so but they like well I guess not like but like for certain purposes I guess they're not. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
a DC comic movie. It's not like just I don't know. Either way, they're not really supposed to like. They're not really going to like. They don't want to show like the actual like that part of the goriness, but like they force you to imagine it. So then like the audience is horrified and like look crap, it's the same thing as that.
Okay, so going off of what Oscar said about them not really like using of them using the action in like different ways to like convey some type of meaning. On the video of about like the best scene of Marvel of like Captain America and Iron Man actually fighting. I think that was a great example of like how they use action to convey that meaning, and they actually like hid stuff from the audience to build up to that moment to where Captain America finds, or not Captain America, Iron Man finds out Captain America was hiding like the truth of Iron Man's parents from him, and a lot of that action really was there to like kind of cement that like hatred towards each other and like that scene of betrayal that Captain America had on Iron Man, and it was like this big divide. And that one scene where Iron Man's like shooting the pulse at Captain America's shield, and you get that like really cool action shot, and it shows that like the great divide basically between those two heroes. And yeah.
Very good.
Anyone else?
We are still minutes away from Bryce's last comment. All right.
The iconic moment.
Alright, well, I mean, it's kind of off topic, but Oscar was talking about cartoons. You were just talking about like action. So like, you ever watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? There was no action until the very end. So like, the entire movie was a build-up of like not even like character development, but like tension.
Yeah.
Like there was tension building up the whole time, and it was building on this one idea of the murder. I don't even remember. But then like the whole idea is based off of that one thing, and it's like it completely switches up on you because like I don't know, nobody expected that. Yeah, they. I don't know.
Weird idea how we just changed up that one word.
Yeah, I once he said that, it kind of made me think like back to what Savannah was saying earlier about like in The Irishman, like someone died every 10 minutes, and it was like I mean that's how like the mob goes and stuff like that. But like you're not really like, oh man, he died. Like it's like just another dead person. But and like I think that's just because they were smaller characters. Because in The Irishman, like a similar thing happens where they follow Frank around like through his journey in the mob or whatever. And like at the very end, I forgot, was it John? His boss, the one that was like working for the union and stuff. Anyways, at the very end is when they kill his boss, and like pretty much the entire movie like led up to him dying. You know what I mean? And it's like this great like thing of betrayal, like basically like Julius Caesar, you know, Brutus. Like Frank is supposed to be like his left-hand man, and like he's there to like deliver his death. And so that's kind of like a depiction of like how like the movie like develops like this kind of like story and the characters and like the tension, and you see how people are hot-headed and stuff, and then at the end there wasn't a lot of action when it came to it, but like you have like this emotional like there's distress and like almost relief. I don't know, I felt relief kind of when he died, but yeah, you just like get a little I don't know, second guessing.
I just don't feel like it was necessarily betrayal when Frank killed him, because
He
I
had it
feel like-
coming.
yeah, he had it coming, so they let Frank do it.
Yeah.
Like they let him do it. It
It
wasn't
felt
like
like betrayal because Frank didn't want to.
yeah,
like, it
Frank
was
he
Frank's
didn't want
boss.
to, but if
Yeah.
it was gonna be anybody,
It should have been him.
yeah, it should have been
exactly.
him. And I feel like I was thinking it, and I was like, he knew
I think his name is John.
no, not John, that old guy, the old man.
You guys know what I'm talking about?
Never seen the movie.
Nope.
Mr. Red, didn't you see it?
The Irishman?
Yeah.
I'm like sitting here impressed that you actually seen The Irishman, right?
Those are my
It
favorite.
was so good.
I haven't seen it yet.
My
During
personal-
the break.
Yeah, my
Because you need like
personal
4
bias
hours.
is, like,
or
I
right?
would rather watch like movies like Good Will